to yet another video from Coder on the longest palindromic substring. So today we'll be solving a problem where we are given a string as we have to return the longest palindromic substring in S. For example, we are given a string BABAD and the longest palindromic substring is either BAB or ABA. Both of these are palindromic substrings of length 3, so we can return either of them. Similarly, for the use case CBBD, the longest palindromic substring is BB. Right. So let's move on to and see what we can do to solve this. So suppose we have a given input string A, C, V, G, H, G, V, P, B, A, B. So a trivial approach that one can think of is generating all the substrings and check if it is a palindrome or not, and then maintaining a counter of the longest length until the current string substring. So this approach is very costly and it will take us an O of n cube. Generating all the substrings will take us O of n square and O of n another operation of checking if it is a palindrome or not, right? So we might want to think about another approach, maybe a O of n square, right? So we will see an algorithm today where we will expand from center and see if we get a valid palindrome or not. If we get a palindrome, we update the lengths, right? For say this is the first index. I am at this index and I'm checking if we can expand it. Since it is the first index, we do not have elements to lift up it, we cannot expand it. Likewise for C, we expand it and see if it can act as a center for a valid palindrome, which it cannot since V and A are different, right? Moving on to V, V cannot act. Moving on to G, it cannot act since H and V are different. Now at this point, when we consider H as a center, we see that it can expand to form a palindrome, right? G is equal to G, then V is equal to V, right? So this will form a palindrome of length 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this gives us a length of palindrome 5. And we cannot find further palindrome of length 5 in this input string, right? If we want to expand from here, we won't get. If you want to expand from here, we won't get. If you want to expand from here, we won't get. If you want to expand from here, we won't. If you want to expand from here, so this will be a palindrome BAB, right? But apart from that, we won't get any. So it is of length 3, which is not the longest palindrome. So our longest palindrome will be this, right? So we might think that this approach will work, right? But let's move on to another test case. Okay, for say we get a test case. String s is equal to say b a b. So as we can see, this is a valid palindrome, right? B is equal to B, A is equal to A. So this is of length 4. But if we go by this approach of taking centers, for say we take center here, right? So we see that the elements are different. So this doesn't qualify for a palindrome, right? So we'll move our index to here, right? And check if we can expand from here. Still we see a difference. So we won't eligible it for palindrome, but this is a palindrome, right? So this is test we were missing by this approach. So how can we solve it? So what we can do is we can take two centers, right? I and J, correct? And we can expand checking that if I is equal to J, the element at I is equal to element at J, and then we see a AA and then expand, and we get a valid length for palindrome, right? Also for this case where we have a BAB, right? We will take both the indices as ij that will point to the same index, right? So we see that from this approach we will be able to solve this problem, right? So let's move on to solving this by coding it on the Leetcode platform. So we will see we have been given an input string of length s dot length, right? And we want to give the length of the not the length of the longest palindrome, but the longest palindrome itself, correct? So let's see how we can do. So as we discuss the approach, we will iterate through each and every indices, right? I is equal to 0, I less than s dot length, right? And then I plus plus, right? So we will calculate the length, right? By expanding it from two centers, right? That is the index and index plus one, correct? So we'll calculate int length one is equal to expand from index, right? And we will give it the string as, for the first case, we will give two centers, right? Because uh, either of the formulas can generate the result, right? Either we have two centers or we have one center for odd length string or odd length palindromic string and even length palindromic string, right? So the other one will be length 2 is equal to expand from index s I, and in this case I and j will be same as I explained in giving the examples, right? And the length, the maximum length, that will be equal to int length is equal to math dot max of both these two lengths, right? Length 1 comma length 2, correct? Okay, so moving on, we get the length, right? But do we need to return the length? No, we need to return the string, right? So we need to somehow get the string from this length, right? So we'll take two indices, int start equal to 0, and then end is equal to 0. Okay, right? And we'll see if we have a length greater than the already existing length, right? Let's say end minus start greater length. What does this mean? That the length that we computed from the above formulas gives us as a length that is greater than the already existing length, right? So start will be I minus length uh, y2, right? Because it is expanding, right? So from the length by 2 it will have a starting index, right? But we also need to consider the odd length palindrome substring. So for that, the start index will be I minus length minus 1, correct? And likewise end will be I plus length by 2. You can dry run to check why it is I minus length minus 1 and not I minus length, correct? Now I need to return the s dot substring, right? So we now got the start and ending index, right? We just need to return the substring from the start to end index, right? Start and plus one, since the outer index is not included in the result, right? In the substring method, correct? Okay. Now we'll write the method int and from index, right? This will take string as input, right? And then the center 1 and the center 2. Just to remind you, we have two centers, right, for two different kind of test cases, right, where we can have one center in cases where we have example like BAB, while we will have multiple center in use cases like BAAB, correct? So yeah. So how will we expand it? So while I is while I is greater than equal to 0, that is I is within the range of the string, right? And j is less than s dot length, right? And how are we expanding? So we are expanding based on the equality criteria, right? So and s dot char at I equals to s dot char at j, right? Okay. So while the condition is true, we want to reduce or we want to expand on the left side and we want to expand on the right side, right? And finally, what will we return from the method? We will return j minus I minus 1. So why j minus I minus 1 and not j minus I? Think of the situation BAB, right? So the center will be 1 comma 1, right? It will try to expand. So since center 1 is equal to center 2, the value at center 1 is equal to center 2. So I plus plus and I minus minus and j plus plus. So I will be 2 and j will be 0. So 0 and 2th element b and b are equal, right? So I will be minus 1 and j will be 3, right? Now try to compute the length. 3 minus 1 and minus 1, right? So it will be 4 minus 1 and that will be 3. So the output length will be 3 for BAB, right? Likewise, you can do a dry run for this use case at line number 14, right? So let's try to run the code. Okay, so I missed, just a second, I missed the method. Okay, so you can see it is submitted, right? And it is accepted as well. Okay, so uh, what is the time complexity, right? Let us discuss that. So the time complexity is O of n for this method, right? Because it can at max expand up to all the elements, right? So it will be O of n. And this loop is also starting from 0 to the last index. So it can at max grow at O of n, right? So for each operation, we are doing it, right? For each index, we are calculating length. So the time complexity will be O of n square. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching the video. Let's meet in the next video. If you feel that I was able to add some value, do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.